All right. Good afternoon on the East Coast. Good morning on the West Coast and here in the Mountain Time Zone. Boulder, Colorado is where I'm talking to you today from. And today we are going to attempt our first webinar from the Patriot Bootcamp community. To do that, we're using Hangouts on Air, as you can see. And as I mentioned, it's the first time we've done this, so we may have some technical hiccups, but we're going to work through those as we proceed. So, the agenda for today is to bring Mr. John Hill from Techstars in, have him chat with us for 30 or 35 minutes, and then open the venue up to question and answer. So, stick with us as we get rolling here, and I will be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back, and it looks like we have Mr. Hill has joined us. How you doing today, John?
Hey, how you doing, Sean?
Great. Thanks for being our guinea pig here. We really appreciate it. We've never done one of these webinars before, and we're really excited to give it a shot.
I'm looking forward to it. It should be fun.
Awesome. And I see we have Charlotte Creech here from the Patriot Bootcamp team as well. How are you doing today, Charlotte? Mr. Hill has joined us. How are you doing today, John?
Hey, how you doing, Sean?
Great. Thanks for being our guinea pig. We're getting some feedback on your end there, Charlotte.
All right, I'm going to put myself on mute.
All right. Well, happy to have everybody here. This is going to be a great webinar. We have John Hill joining us. John, where are you today?
Based out of Boston, Massachusetts, so hanging downtown.
Boston, Massachusetts. Great. Well, we have Charlotte in Austin and myself here in Boulder, Colorado, and we have 10 people currently dialed in viewing, and we expect that to bump up here in the minutes ahead. So just a quick plug for the Patriot Bootcamp we have coming up in 3 weeks. 3 weeks from today, we will be in Detroit, Michigan. We have a great lineup of 30 presenters, 40 mentors, and Detroit is rolling out the red carpet for Patriot Bootcamp. The event is actually going to be held in the Techstars office in Ford Field, and we have some really exciting speakers and some distinguished visitors coming to talk to the cohort. So if you're interested in getting involved, please check out that event. And with that, I will introduce John Hill. John is the network catalyst at Techstars. He is a Michigan State grad like myself, so he and I have that.
Go green.
Absolutely, go white. Tomorrow's Purdue. It'll be a big game, and I'm sure we're going to win because that's just what Michigan State does. John, you've had an interesting background. I mean, looks like you were at the Lansing State Journal. We were actually in East Lansing at the same time back then, but didn't know one another. You spent some time at LinkedIn. You've been advisors for startups. And now you've been at Techstars for a year or so. So please, with that, take it away, and we look forward to hearing from you on relational networking and personal branding.
Hey, thank you, Sean. So a little deeper into background, I was the higher education evangelist at LinkedIn for 3 years. I was one of their lead product walkthrough specialists. Used to speak at conferences at a high level, so did about 110 conference speaking engagements globally over that 3-year period, and essentially would walk people through how to effectively utilize LinkedIn, kind of marrying online and offline approaches to relational connectivity and management. And I'll go through some of the things that we learned as a team on how to best help college students find jobs and opportunities, how to reflect their personal brand, how to showcase their company brand on a site like LinkedIn. We're going to go for about, 30 minutes, Sean? Does that sound good?
That sounds perfect. And then we will have some time for question and answer if you're available as well, John.
Perfect. Yeah, and I'll stick around. And I'm available to anybody who dials in today offline as well. So at the end of this, I'll give my contact information. Feel free to reach out, and we can talk a little bit broader. But this is one of my favorite subjects. I was the Director of Alumni Career Services at Michigan State University, helping people find jobs and opportunities during the last recession prior to joining LinkedIn. And then, Sean, to your point, I worked at the Lansing State Journal in Gannett in brand management, business development, market research. Prior to that, I worked for national sports magazines as an editor, Athlon Sports, doing preseason annuals for college pro football, college pro basketball, baseball, golf. Most important part of this story is I come from a family of veterans. My dad was in the Air Force, both my grandfathers in the Army, and it's something that without the GI Bill, my dad wouldn't have put our family in the place that we are right now. It means a lot to me, and it's awesome to be able to showcase this tool to folks who can benefit from it from the military. So let's start with sharing my screen, and we'll pop into LinkedIn. And Sean, when we shut down, I'll start answering questions on the back end of this. But for now, I'll walk through for the next 30 minutes or so what's available here. And you can see Sean's beautiful face on here popping up. But now I'll take it over to LinkedIn. And you can see that this tool has changed pretty dramatically over the last 5 years or so. Used to be really transactional information, and now they're starting to spotlight some of your connectivity. They're looking at the utility of LinkedIn for you. You can see updates. What I always like to go back to is how I started utilizing LinkedIn, which was as an online Rolodex, a way to keep in touch with my relationships. So if I pop in there, you can see I've got a list of the people I'm connected to that I have relationships with, but they started doing something which I thought was pretty cool. About a year and a half ago, LinkedIn began bubbling up insights in your network over a 24-hour period. What they're doing is they're helping you engage with the people that you're connected with at a first level on changes that have happened with them recently. So it focuses on 5 main things: birthday, work anniversary, people who have moved from one location to another, people who have a new job, and then people who have been mentioned in the news. The cool thing about this is you spend 10 minutes paying into what I call social credit, just really quickly celebrating this with other folks. So say with a new job, I can say congrats, great job, and let's do 5 exclamation points. I hit comment, and within 7 seconds, I've just connected with somebody who I'm connected to through Pinterest, and let her know that I thought it was awesome that she had that job. I reach out 6 months from now, she may remember that connection point. So it's a way to kind of water your network and let it grow, even if you aren't utilizing or connecting to the relationships that are there. But it still acts as a primary Rolodex, so you can still search it and look for specific people. And one of my favorite people is a guy by the name of Brent Grenna. Brent's a serial entrepreneur. He starts a company like every 6 days. What I love about him is he's a high-velocity guy. So if you know him, you know his world and the people around him. Great backstory. Family originally from the state of Iowa. They were pig farmers. Brent grew up with parents who were not college educated, did relatively well in school, was a pretty good football player. School from the East Coast came calling and said, hey, we want you to play there. He hadn't really heard much about them. That school ended up being Brown. He ended up being the captain of the Brown football team, graduated, went into consulting for a while, realized that's not what he wanted to do, went and got his MBA from Harvard, and then started spinning out companies. He's actually connected to Techstars. He's founder of a company called Evertrue, came out of our Boston 2011 class. What I love about Brent's profile is he does a great job of representing all his interests and connections, but also maintaining a brand for his company as well. So his company matches alumni data from universities with the social cues that they take. So if a individual who went to a school likes something that the school posts, they can attach that to the transactional data that the universities have on the back end. So Brent uses his profile to show that. He shows some of his thought leaderships in the space around annual giving or giving in general, and uses long-form blogging as a way to do this. I'm a huge believer that thought leadership is the job search currency, or the job currency of the future. Employers are going to want to know that you're known for a subject area. And you can see Brent's got 3,800 followers following the post that he has. LinkedIn is where business takes place, and so people stumble across profiles looking for business answers. Brent's given people a reason to reach out to him for the answers that they're searching in the fields of higher education and development. If I scroll down a little bit further, he also uses this as a way to promote his company. And so you can see he's got a deck about why to invest in Evertrue. He's got a video of what Evertrue does, and this is actually his co-founder, or one of the participants in the Techstars program with him, Jesse Bardo, showing what Evertrue is all about. Their employees all have representation of this material on their profiles, so they're using their 50 employees to amplify the company and showcase what they're about through video and rich media. And this whole profile is rich media enabled. If I scroll down a little bit further, I can see a lot of information about Brent, who he is and what his interests are and his past work experience. I'm a big believer that you use LinkedIn profiles to take a cold call into a warm call. Look at people's profiles before you reach out to them. See commonalities that you have. Play off those commonalities for opportunity, and use it during conversation, either in person or on the phone. I'm not a huge believer of using technology as the primary way to reach out to somebody. Much more effective to hit them on phone-to-phone or face-to-face, and using this information can make that conversation that much easier. So another thing I wanted to showcase is endorsements. These are lightweight recommendations from your first level connections on skills and expertise that you have on various subjects. In the base level, where it's just like one person recommending you on one endorsement, LinkedIn falls down a little bit on this, and I'll tell you why. I'm guessing most of the people on this call have been endorsed for something, likely been endorsed for something by somebody in their network who has no idea they have that skill or expertise, and it may feel to you that that's not worthwhile, but in the aggregate, the best always bubbles up. And so what I can see is Brent's known by his network for entrepreneurship, leadership, startups, fundraising. If I had Brent here right now, he would tell you that's his personal professional brand. For you, this is a good way in aggregate to read what people think you're about and who you are. If I take another shift on this, if you're looking for talent to add to a company that you're building, and you're looking for somebody with experience in fundraising, and you go to their profile and they're not endorsed by anybody in fundraising, that may be a red flag, and it's something to highlight during the interview process. On the flip side, if you're looking through connections and you see that somebody does have a lot of people who are endorsing them for fundraising, maybe an indicator that that's a person to have a conversation with. So this gives you an idea of a way that you can use endorsements in probably a non-traditional, friendly way. Now, if I scroll up to the top, LinkedIn is really good at hiding some of the most valuable components of the platform. And so I'm going to pop into this area. It's available on all profiles, on all first-level connections, so your direct connections. It's free. Everything I'm walking through is on the free version of LinkedIn. And I can edit contact information. So Brent's added this information, his Twitter account, his website. But I can put additional information. Say I had his business card. I could put 555-1212, essentially use this as an electronic Rolodex of all the contact information that revolves around him. If I add this to his profile, I'm the only one who can view this information. Nobody else on LinkedIn can view this information. So I can start to capture all the professional context, all the professional information around him. Now additionally, whoops, didn't mean to do that. Additionally, if I hit relationship, I can do some really cool things about capturing the conversation around the relationships I have. So I can keep notes on all my first level connections. And I could say something like, on 3/11, Brent and I talked about starting a biz. Now Brent moves quick, so on 3/12, we started a biz. That 24-hour business plan was absolutely brilliant. So on 3/14, we failed. If I save this to his profile, I'm the only one who can see this. Nobody else can see that information that I just posted there. I've been using this for about 5 years, capturing the conversation around the professional relationships I have. Some of you may have CRMs, customer relation management tools, that you're using. What I would do is use this as a carbon copy of the conversation, so you have this for the life of the professional identity of record that's on LinkedIn, but you also have that information captured in your CRM. Now there's a reminder system. I think you probably have better reminder systems than this that you can set up, but you can also define how you met, and I do think that this is helpful. So we met in a dark alley, and who introduced us? Joe. And I can start to save some of that longitudinal connection information, and I refer back to this now as I run into people. Hey, didn't so-and-so introduce us? And I know the answer to it, but a good way to stay connected to the relationship and connection. Now I can also create tags to make people more searchable for me, and I have Brent under Good Person for Entrepreneurship. I created that tag, and he's one of those folks that's under that umbrella around entrepreneurship. Now, if I come up here and go back to connections, I'm going to scroll into keep in touch. Remember, I kept that note on Brent about us starting a company. LinkedIn is the only social medium that allows you to do the following. And if I scroll over here, I hit this settings tab. I go into export LinkedIn connections. I can export all of my first level connections out of LinkedIn. The industry that they're in, their job title, the company that they relate to, and the notes that I keep on them. And I can export it into a CSV file. It's a fancy term for Excel. So essentially I can remove that information and do whatever I want with it. I can upload it into whatever CRM I have. From an organizational perspective, say I have 4 or 5 employees at my startup, we can all download our first level connections. We can put it into one file, dedupe it, put the multiple names next to the relationships we have. And all of a sudden I can start to do sorts by the industries that we have first level connections with emanating out of our company. I can look at the companies that we're associated with. I can start to see the strengths of relationships. I can start to see the weaknesses where we really need to build relational capital. And I can start to look at who has the best relationships into the organizations that we want to get into. Highly valuable and a way to trick the system that most people aren't applying right now. So pretty cool tool. I'm going to show you a couple more of these tools in a second, but I want to get into search because this is the primary reason we all get on LinkedIn is we want to be able to view not only people in our network, but people at a level that might be able to advance what we're doing. And so I'm going to go into the advanced search. And one of the things that you may have noticed LinkedIn has done over the last 2.5 years is really mitigate the third level connection. You see it's third in everyone else, essentially off the charts, not even in the relational map. There's a reason that LinkedIn did that. What they found was the vast majority of first level connections people knew. They were direct connections. I'm a huge believer, by the way, of building a quality relational network, not a quantity relational network. So you want to build a relationship based on 4 major affiliations. That could be friends and family, #1 affiliation out there. Problem with friends and family is a lot of times that network isn't big enough to help you out or align with what you do. #2 is university affiliation. I would put military on that line as well. #3 is shared work experience. So if I worked at, say, Gannett, which is what we talked about earlier with Sean, if somebody from Gannett were to pick up the phone and give me a call, I'm likely to take that call. And #4 is volunteerism or causes. If I connect with people based on my relationship to those 4 categories, generally it's going to be a quality relational network. Why that's important is those first level connections connect me into connections of connections, second level connections, people they know. 85% of job opportunities come out of not who you know, but who they know out of relational networking. It's based on some research that Reid Hoffman did out of his book. And you can see the power in that weak tie, which is that connection of a connection. And I would say that that number probably applies to business development or market development or trying to build relationships with organizations. It's generally not who you know who's going to get you in the door, but who they know. And LinkedIn is great at doing that. Once you get out to a third level connection, there's no commonality in between you, and that's one of the reasons they mitigated it. Less communication happens all the way at this level. It's generally out of these 2 groups. But for this exercise, we're going to look at the world. And we're going to look at first, second group, third level connections. And we're going to look at, out of the 370 million people that are on LinkedIn, the title CEO. And we're only going to look at the current CEOs. And when we do that search, it brings up 2.4 million people at a first, second level group, third, or everyone else that have a profile on LinkedIn. That's a lot of people. And so I want to bring this down to a smaller subset of people. And so I might be interested in looking at those folks that were in the Army. And all of a sudden, I've got 24,000 people that have Army in their profile that are first, second, third level group, the universe on LinkedIn that are a CEO. But I want to look at a specific city. So I'm really interested in looking at the only zip code I can remember other than my own, 90210. Oh, they just changed this. Cool. By the way, this just changed on the fly. It used to be zip code specific. Now I can look at a specific metropolitan statistical area, Greater Los Angeles area. I can see 853 people that are in that area that are related to Army, and I can see who they are. I could take this a step further. Sean and I went to Michigan State University. Let's see if anybody comes up with Michigan State University in the Army, our CEO, and are on LinkedIn, and there are 4 people. And I can see a partner at Start Engine, Ron Miller. If I look at his profile, I can see the universities, actually UD Mercy too. I can see that he's got a BA from MSU, I can see his past experiences. I can see what he's endorsed for, a lawyer too. I can see his interests. Great way to take a cold call into a warm call. But he's interested in entrepreneurship, startups. Somewhere in here, he has Army experience. He's got it listed. I can see the universities that he's attached to. Let's see. And if I look up to the right, I can see the people who connect me with him. Colin is actually a guy who's connected to Techstars that I could reach out to and say, hey, Colin, do you mind connecting me with Ron? Love to get to know him a little bit better. We seem to have a lot of experiences in common. So a really, really cool way to navigate this into a smaller group of people that you might be able to associate and work with. One of the things I might do if I were to pick up the phone and give Ron a call is personalize the call very quickly to say, hey, Ron, I'm a graduate of Michigan State University. I'm a veteran, really interested in learning a little bit more about who you are and what you're about. I was wondering if you'd take a few minutes to talk to me about that. It's amazing how powerful that two-sentence structure is. One, you positioned him as the expert in himself. People love to be the experts in themselves as a conversation extender. Secondarily, you've played off affiliations, and really quickly, I know I can't see you guys, but imaginarily, if I were to ask you if somebody from the military or somebody from a university you graduated from were to pick the phone and give you a call and say, hey, I want to learn a little bit about the story of you, by a show of hands, how many of you would take that call? And I'm envisioning pretty much all of you raising your hand. And if you don't raise your hand, you're going to hell. And I don't have that power, and I'm Irish Catholic, so I'm going to feel guilty about that for the next 24 hours. But as you can imagine, if you raised your hand, people like Ron are built very similarly. And what we're trying to do is increase the odds that people will take your connection, your conversation, will build into your relational network. And this is a way you can do that. What I might carry on the job, on that phone call, is to ask him how he got into the position he's in now and learn his pathways, what his work environment is like, to learn a little bit more about the culture and his experiences there, what type of opportunities may be available, either for my company or for me individually. And it gives me an ability to work through a friendly, to read through what I might be able to benefit from in that organization. And try on the suit before actually going through the process. So, just a way that you can start to use this for research. I'm a huge believer. I go back to face-to-face interaction being the most effective way to communicate with somebody. Phone-to-phone second, online third. I've got all this great information about Ron. If I did a Google search, I'll find a phone number, pick up the phone and give him a call. It's amazing how much that phone call will change the dynamic of the conversation as opposed to an email. And I do that personally. I know not everybody's comfortable with it. If you're most comfortable with sending something through email or through LinkedIn, feel free to do that. But I do feel like those first two levels, the phone and face-to-face, are most impactful. Now, this was all well and good. There's actually another tool that I like even more. It's called the Find Alumni tool. And it shows alumni of an institution by where they live, where they work, and what they do. And if I look at this for the university, it'll showcase the university you went to on your profile, all of the alumni by where they live, where they work, and what they do. University affiliation is one of the most powerful affiliations, which is why I play off of it. 201,000 people from the university that Sean and I went to. I can change to look at any one of 24,000 universities globally. So your university is in here, I promise. And some cool things that happen here. I can see the top places where alumni live, where they work, what they do. If I scroll over a little bit, I can see what they studied, what they're skilled at, and how I'm connected to them. And what I might look at are, actually I'm going to do this, all the people who are related to, say, a specific military category. 201,000 people. I'm doing a search for Air Force. It's going to take that whole phrase. It's a smart search. It's going to look on the profiles of all the people here, and there's 1,600 people who are connected to the Air Force, including current people. Now, I'm looking at starting my own company. There are 120 people who are in entrepreneurship that are also connected to the Air Force. And all of a sudden, I've got those 120 people, and I've got the organizations and companies that they're associated with. And if I scroll over here, I'm interested in those people who studied business or, say, engineering, those categories. So I've got entrepreneurship, business, and engineering, and went to Michigan State, and there are 14 people there. If I scroll down, I can see who those people are, how I relate to them in year of graduation. So on my specific institution that I went to, I can play off military affiliation to get in the door through conversation with some of these folks. This works in a whole host of ways. I may change this. We'll clear all, and I might look at our Navy folks out of Michigan State, which is kind of ironic because it's a landlocked land-grant institution, but there are 1,400 people associated with the Navy here. I might be interested in those people who are associated with San Francisco, 29 of them. And now I can look down and see who those people are and how I relate to them. If I'm looking for investment, if I'm looking for friendlies that can help me navigate what it's like to be in San Francisco raising money, these are some folks that may be able to help me out. From a broad level, universities themselves are not good at helping you find venture capital, which is the primary thing you need to start your own company. So I can come up here and look at venture capital. Out of 201,000 people, Smart Search, it'll search all those people who are related to that, 1,240. And now I can see where those people live, where they work, and what they do. And again, looking at the Bay Area, I can see the 81 people who are related to the university I graduated from that have some appreciable experience in venture capital off their profile. These are friendlies that I can play off university affiliation to connect to. So great tool. Again, you come under connections, you come under find alumni, and that's where you can associate with that. Company search. I'm going to go through this real quickly because I think it's valuable. There are 2.6 million companies that have a profile on LinkedIn. You can search by industry, you can search by company, you can search by location. And so let's pick another area, my area. So we'll look at Boston. There are 33,000 companies that come up. And say we're looking at the industry of computer software. I got 1,500 people that are related, 1,500 companies that are related to computer software. And say we're interested in Pegasystems. I've got 14 second-level connections, so connection of a connection. Know somebody who knows these people. I can activate it. I've got their recent updates, so I can start to see the culture of the company based on content. If I read this enough from a biz dev or sales perspective, I get a feel for what means something to them and what doesn't. I can use that in presentation. If I'm looking to partner with them, it's a great way to get a feel for the vibe of the company. I can see who's viewed their company, and the 6 most companies viewed after essentially gives me competitive analysis based on users. Your individual companies would also have this kind of information on your company page. And I can see the 2,800 employees that are on this page or with this company. If I go here, they're listed and can be broken up by categories. There are 812 of them in Boston, and I can start to search for other things. So maybe we go again back to school affiliation. Again, playing off Sean and I's institution. I can look at the people who were MSU. And I can see Stacy is a second-level connection, Global Contact Center Strategy Manager, General Motors. She's working with the CRM business consultant at Pegasystems. She's playing around with them. Sajak, who works in Amsterdam. Bill. All these people are people I can reach out to and play off the affiliations and connections we have, specifically university affiliation. Just one little trick. I'm a huge believer in due diligence and learning as much as you can. I can actually remove Pegasystems as the current company. I can look at past company being Pegasystems. And now I've got all the people who graduated from Michigan State University that used to work at Pegasystems. If I were to pick the phone and give them a call, they'll tell me everything, good, bad, and indifferent. They have more affiliation with me, with the university, than they do at this point with the company. So it's a way to start to really dig out some information that can be helpful in wherever you are in the process of connecting with companies and organizations. Great way to do due diligence and find out really, really deep information on companies that you're trying to connect with. So, beautiful way here to play off this. I know probably very few people on this call are specifically looking for jobs. I just love showcasing what this tool looks like. So right now it's breaking up to where I live. Right, let's look at the jobs in the Boston market. And I can start to look at these from different zip codes or areas, specific companies, specific titles. One of the really cool things is when you have a connection specifically to the poster, if you click on this, you can see the relationship that that person has. So Phil Swisher, who's related to Techstars in Boston, has helped as a mentor before, and he and I go and grab coffee from time to time to talk. He's connected to Daniel, who posted this job position. I could reach out to Phil and say, hey, could you help me connect with Daniel? Or I could look at the company page at Imaginext and see the university or military affiliation with those companies. And so if I were to look in this small company, 53 people, but I could now start to search down and see, again, affiliations that I have, connections that I have. I have 7 connections with Chris, who's the Chief Marketing Officer, including Diane Hessen, who runs Startup Institute, which is an office I'm looking at right now to connect into this job role. So it's a way to use relationships or utilize relationships to get into where you want. And then this last thing that I'm going to show, there are 2 different areas that I'm going to take you to. Education on mine, I'm being kind of beta tested on a primary navigation. Pops up here. For you, it's going to pop up under interest, but it takes you to the same place. So if you click on education, these are all the university-based products that LinkedIn has. The one I want you to focus on is actually a repository of learning materials. So if you go to university and come down here, there's going to be a higher education resource center. If you click on that, it takes you to this place, which will have tools for you, like a profile checklist to make sure that your profile is as fine as it can be. And then up top, there's something broken out for teachers or faculty, so it's for you or students. Under the For You stuff, there are a series of videos, including something like building a great profile. If you click on that, you'll see that LinkedIn actually filmed me for about 3 hours before I left the company on all the categories that I used to talk about. And so here I'm giving you a walkthrough, and I'll actually take you in product step by step on how to build an effective profile. And you can go down that when you want hidden gems, so you can cover some of the categories that I talked about, like being able to download all of your first level connections, but I go much broader. How to use that alumni tool more effectively. And this is something you can pass along to your colleagues or your friends, and they can learn the same things that you've learned on this short video. For students, it's actually walkthroughs of how to build a professional brand, how to build a student profile, how to use the checklist, a series of videos that you can use to get you through the process to be effective here. And it's broken up into a series of categories that you can use. And then one last thing that I want to show, because I know that we have some veterans, is LinkedIn actually has a veterans area within the site. It's a microsite. So if I click on this, if you type in veterans.linkedin.com, it'll take you to this page. They'll allow you to get JobSeeker for free. There's a veterans group. I implore you to join that group, because that means you now have connections on search to all those people who are related to the veterans group within this space. You can see the jobs that are available, specifically targeted towards veterans, and then a huge amount of tips and tricks for veterans who are looking for opportunity in the space. So it's pretty cool that LinkedIn had developed something specifically for that specific audience. I'm going to take you back to the home page for a second and show you one last thing, and then Sean will take questions. LinkedIn's doing a much better job of showcasing some of the insights of people who have interests in you. So you can see the people who are viewing you at any given time. And if I scroll down, Daniel, I'm guessing, is on this call. Sean, I know, is on this call. I can see people who have taken interest in me in some way from a professional perspective. There are a couple ways to look at this. So on the first one, this does a great job of seeing, are you brand aligned? Are the people who should be looking at your profile looking at your profile? I work with entrepreneurs. If I scroll down this, I better see a lot of entrepreneurs who are looking at my profile. Otherwise, I'm not brand aligned. Secondarily, this is a great tool to see how you're doing in business development or relational management or say the job search. Say I do a pitch to a company on our product, and a couple days later I see somebody from that company has looked at my profile. What does that tell you? It tells you they're interested. They wouldn't look otherwise. So for the first time, you have kind of a small passive gauge of people's interest in you as an organization or an individual, which is really powerful. And then say we're pitching to VC and I see that they look at my profile. They're interested in my organization. Again, a good indicator. Another way that I like to showcase this is, whoops, wrong thing. Who's viewed your posts? And so I can see over the last year who's viewed all the posts that I've done, that long-form blogging that we looked on my profile, and I can see the people who liked it or the people who shared it, and then I can mobilize those people to connect with me. I can see the categories that I'm penetrating. So where's my thought leadership landing? And for me, it's internet or information technology or design. Some people on higher education, which is where I used to play in. But it allows through content for me to see what's successful, what's not. On your posts, you can see how many people viewed it, how many people liked it, how many people commented on it. All those people who liked and commented on this, they're all people that have interest in you in some way, shape, or form. Those are people to mobilize to help you out. So you might find prospective employees. You might find people who might want to partner with you. They're indicators of people's interest in what you have to say in your thought leadership. So with that, Sean, I'll hand it back to you. I'm going to stop sharing the screen, and we can start having conversation and answering some of the questions that people have popped up.
Awesome. Thank you, John. This is amazing stuff. I think, Charlotte, you were going to jump in and field some of the questions, correct?
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you so much, John. Really insightful presentation there. I learned a lot, and you gave some really great tips, so appreciate it. I have a couple questions. I'll start off with just one for now, and then we can field some from the audience as well. But first question, what's the difference between a free account and a paid account? How much does a paid account cost? When does it make sense to upgrade to one? I know veterans right now, I believe if it's the same, they get a year free of the premium account. But once that year runs out, what do you think the value of a paid account is, and when would you recommend it?
Yeah, so I have two recommendations, and one of the things we didn't really get into is I know a lot of veterans come into the workforce kind of unprepared on developing that individual personal brand because so much of their efforts are about team and showcasing the results of the team, but you also have to be able to position who you are individually, and LinkedIn is built for that space. The other thing that I've noticed is that a lot of veterans haven't built their network before they needed it. So that it's there when they do. And so the number one thing that I would say is those affiliations that I talked about, friends and family, university or military affiliation, shared work experience, volunteerism, build out your network on those things. And it goes back to the second thing that I talked about, which is build a quality relational network, not a quantity relational network. The reason you build a quality relational network of people you know on a first level is because they're more likely to connect you to the second level connection. They're more likely to advance your messaging or your needs or your interests to the party that they're connected to. If you just open connect with people, it's less likely to be that. So I'm actually a huge believer of not updating or not doing the premium subscription. Take advantage of the full year free, great. But if you build a quality relational network, you should be able to get into the people you need to through relationships. People are more likely to take that phone call if they know who you are or have know the affiliations or connections that you have with them. One of the primary values of having that upgraded premium subscription is you can connect to anybody and send a message to anybody. But you think about it, when you have somebody who you don't know sending you a message and you have somebody you do know or somebody you respect sending you a message on somebody's behalf, which one are you more likely to respond to? It's always going to be the latter. And so, work on building out that primary relational network. Once you get to about 50 connections, that search that we just went through, the advanced search, becomes powerful. Once you get to about 30 university affiliations, that university search becomes valuable. And then from a veteran perspective, in that search, we did Army CEOs, use the branches. Look at the people in any of the military branches that may be in areas or categories or industries you're interested in connecting into. That affiliation is unbelievably powerful. And it opens up the door for you to have phone calls with the people you need to get into. And again, I think that's the best approach, is the quality over quantity. And I think that the premium subscription plays into quantity. And I was a spokesperson for it, and I was on stage saying these same things. Where I think it becomes powerful is when your company needs insights on things, then go ahead and do it. But right now, if you're bootstrapping your company, or you're just coming up with ideation, or your early seed stage, don't spend the money. There are other ways to work around it.
Thanks, John. Appreciate the cost-saving tips there. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to open it up to a couple of questions from the audience. We had one come in. The question is, how should Patriot Bootcamp alumni connect on LinkedIn groups? And I would expand that to also say, just in general, if you're the founder of a startup or a company and you want to create a group, how do you go about doing that? What's the best way to get people not just to join the group, but to get them to actually engage or share conversations?
Yeah, so I think this is something for you guys as leaders of Patriot Bootcamp, as well as the individuals who are on here. That affiliation is a strong affiliation. Everybody has gone through a learning experience that most people will never go through Patriot Bootcamp. It means something for the folks that have gone through. I'd make sure that everybody's cross-connected on LinkedIn because that means it's easy to see, hey, that guy that went through Patriot Bootcamp 2 years ago has the connection that I need to get into. And that's an emotional connection, because you guys know Patriot Bootcamp is transformational for people. So I would certainly play off that. For the groups specifically, it's all about content and engagement. And I think this is where people fall down. So at one point, I ran 6 groups with about 200,000 members. I grew the largest college or university group in the world, the largest mentor program between students and alumni in the world. That's actually what got me on the radar screen from LinkedIn. And this was 7-8 years ago, when people really didn't know what LinkedIn was. And what we did was we built a culture through content around how to build your personal brand, how to navigate job search 2.0. It was during the recession. How to take your online connections offline for career success. People knew they could learn that content there, came back to it because of the engagement and content there. And we built brand ambassadors, so we built people who cared about it so much that they were posting on our behalf. If I were to try to make a group evergreen, that's the approach I would take. And I think that there aren't enough good veteran groups right now that are being used to help people propel into their professional careers, and certainly not from an entrepreneurial perspective.
Great, thanks, John. Another question from the audience. So if you don't have a specific connection or affiliation with a particular person, but you really want to connect with that person, what's the best way to do it? Is LinkedIn the right tool to try and cold connect with somebody, or how can you build a relationship with somebody that you don't have a first or second connection with?
Yeah, so I can tell you categorically, with somewhere down the line, you have a relationship in one of those 4 affiliations that will connect you into that person. I guarantee it. And so it really is about spending some time to build your relational network. The roles that I've had, I'm currently the network catalyst at Techstars, and essentially one of my primary roles is to connect alumni of our accelerators to opportunities, whether that's other alumni or mentors or investors or global. Prior to that, I was at LinkedIn building a global ecosystem around higher education, and helping higher education help students find jobs and opportunities through relational networking. Prior to that, I worked at Michigan State University, an alumni in career services, helping people find jobs and opportunities through relational networking. A lot of experience here. We're talking a decade of thinking about network and relational connectivity. And the thing I can uncategorically say without any concern is you know way more people than you think you know, and there are way more people who will help you out than you would ever believe.
That's awesome, John. Thank you so much for all of this wonderful information, and you've made us given us all enough information just to be dangerous. So we promise to use these superpowers for good and not for evil. But thank you for taking the time from Boston today. We wanted to keep this tight at 45 minutes. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to having you join us at a Patriot Boot Camp in the months ahead.
I'm working at Detroit, so I'm working on it. So one last thing I want to share with everybody on this call, my email address is john.hill@techstars.com. If you want any additional insights, if you want any additional help, I'm happy to help out. This audience specifically means a lot to me. I feel like I haven't given enough to it, and know that you have my time and attention if needed. So.
Thanks, John. Again, we appreciate your time. We really hope we get to see you in Detroit, and I would give everyone a plug to check out John on Twitter at TechStarsJohn. So one last public service announcement for the Detroit Patriot Boot Camp coming up 3 weeks from today on October 23rd. Going to be a great event in a great city. We hope we get to see you there, and I think we're going to call this first webinar a success, and we look forward to doing this again in the weeks ahead. Thank you, John. Thank you, Charlotte, and thank you, everybody.
Thanks, John.